This episode of the Cult Popture podcast was brought to you by our Patreon. If you want to tell us which films we should watch, get up to 2 extra exclusive podcasts a month, give us something to talk about in the post-credit scenes at the end of each episode, or even contribute to the discussion in the episode itself, then please consider joining the cult and donating at www.patreon.com/cultpopture. Hey everyone, and welcome along to Film Franchise Fortnights on the Cult Popture podcast. This is, of course, our show where once a fortnight we cover a different film franchise. And Richard, I'm AJ.
AJ, I'm Richard.
And you're going to America tomorrow.
And you're coming.
So we thought we'd combine our 2 nightly activities to do the Coming to America franchise, because that's what we're doing this week. There's 2 films, Coming to America and Coming to America, one in 1988 and one in 2021. These classic Eddie Murphy raunchy comedies. Because you're going to America, when I went to the UK earlier in this year, we did the Airplane series, and similarly, though this one was this one voted? No, I think they're both voted on by Patreon. We're doing the thing you're doing, Coming to America.
Yeah, from the Americans' point of view.
Yeah. So
I can't believe I fly out tomorrow. That's insane.
I'm so excited for you. Are you going to see Eddie Murphy?
I might not be able to recognize him. He might be an old Jewish man.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, this is of the Eddie Murphy dresses up as different characters. This is the first one, actually.
Yes, the first one, yeah.
Where he dresses up as different characters. The first one, Coming to America in 1988, this was directed by John Landis.
Yep.
More like
John Landis, helicopter on Vic Morrow and 2 kids.
Yeah. What do you think it has on Rotten Tomatoes, the movie, not the helicopter incident from the Twilight Zone?
I'm going to say 74.
73%, so very close. What is Coming to America about? Set the scene.
Coming to America is about a prince of a fictional African nation, Zamunda, who travels to the US in order to find a bride, because he's got these arranged marriages. His parents are planning for him, and these women are all just trained from birth to please him. And so he wants someone who will love him for him. So he goes to America, he goes to Queens, and there's a lot of fish out of water comedy that, this royalty, very distinguished gentleman is now being put with, the human trash of New York. And so he gets a job at a fast food restaurant called McDowell's, which we'll come back to. And he meets various characters, some of whom are played by him. He has his Semi, played by Arsenio Hall, with him, and some characters look a lot like him as well. And
it's funny because this is actually the second franchise in a row which either stars Arsenio Hall or was going to star Arsenio Hall. Arsenio Hall was going to be in Bad Boys, but turned it down and would later call it the greatest regret of his career. And I didn't mention that on the Bad Boys episode, then got Coming to America the next week. And that is the greatest regret of my career, is not mentioning it on the Bad Boys episode.
Anyway, he finds the daughter of Mr. McDowell is
which in a lot of ways is still a princess, an American princess, a CEO's daughter,
an American princess in London.
Calm down, continue the franchise, not for another 45 minutes.
It's very generous estimation there, but they get married and things go right.
Yes. What did you think of this movie?
I enjoyed it more than I thought I would. These kind of movies have a reputation, and there was a certain reverence for this film that I wasn't aware of, but I'd seen things that I assumed were references to it in the past, and when Coming to America was announced, that was like a long gestating sequel. And so to go back and watch this film, I thought I was gonna say, especially having have you ever watched Eddie Murphy's stand-up, like Raw.
No.
Most homophobic shit you'll ever see. Like, it's really, really... and, this is still considered to this day to be one of the greatest stand-up specials of all time. There's two. There's Raw, and then there's one other one, but where he's wearing the red, leather tracksuit, and it's just like... I mean, I can't even say the jokes on it to explain how bad they are. But we watched it one time, me and our mutual friend of the podcast, David Correos, and it was one of the... I think we turned it off after 5 or 10 minutes. And yeah, Delirious is the other one, Delirious and Raw, and they got theatrical releases. I think Delirious is the one I'm talking about.
Right.
And so I was like, Eddie Murphy at that time, probably not going to love this film. But then, I watched it, and while a lot of it is that sort of very dated, late 80s observational humor, I think I was kind of taken with how nice and how heartfelt the movie is. That one of those things of it's nice to watch a film about a relentless optimist like that.
Yeah, right.
It's quite a good trope of the relentless optimist placed in a shitty situation or surrounded by shitty people and never losing his optimism. Ted Lasso is a great example of this as well. But yeah, it's a fun plot line.
Interestingly, I thought this was just miserably long. It's 2 hours long. I watched it in two parts because I was just I couldn't handle. I went out of the room. I paused to go to the toilet. I came back. My flatmate had started playing Tony Hawk's Pro Skater, and I was just like, "You just go for it, man. I'll watch the rest of it later because I cannot keep watching this." I thought it was serviceable. I don't think I liked it as much as you did.
I didn't say I liked it.
You said you did. You said you messaged me earlier today and said I quite liked them.
Yeah, well, a lot of people messaging stuff.
We all say things we regret.
That messaging you that's the biggest regret of my career.
I wouldn't say I enjoyed it, but I thought the performances were pretty top notch.
Yeah.
And I thought the makeup that went into Eddie Murphy playing an old Jewish man, his name's Saul, incredible. Yeah. Mind-blowing that's Eddie Murphy dressed up as a white man. It's the best version of that I've ever seen.
Have you ever seen the SNL sketch where Eddie Murphy does whiteface?
Yes, I have.
It's
yeah.
it
doesn't look as good as this.
Yeah, that's the joke though. It's considered one of the all-time great SNL sketches. And I think it was one of the first what they would now call a digital short, where it was filmed in advance, not a live sketch. But yeah, it's Eddie Murphy going undercover as a white person to see what life is like. And he goes to the bank and they're like, "Just take the money. It's fine."
According to John Landis, it was his idea to have Eddie Murphy wear makeup to play a Jewish man as sort of a payback for Jewish comedians wearing blackface in the early 1900s.
Nice.
It's a good
that's
idea.
Why racism is gone now.
Yeah, it was gone in 1988. Interestingly, though, the production of this film was quite tumultuous. So you're aware of this. You're aware there is bad blood. Because Eddie Murphy and John Landis apparently had quite a few clashes despite having worked together before on Trading Places, which we'll get to later, and Murphy being the one to hire Landis in the first place. Murphy wrote the film. Murphy's the creator of Coming to America, hired John Landis to direct it. Landis has this to say on the feud. He said, "The guy on Trading Places was young and full of energy and curious and funny and fresh and great. The guy on Coming to America was the pig of the world." But I still think he's wonderful in the movie. Murphy, not necessarily replying to that statement, but I think asked in an interview about the bad blood, said, "We had a tussling confrontation. We didn't come to blows. Personalities didn't mesh. He directed me in Trading Places when I was just starting out as a kid, but he was still treating me like a kid 5 years later during Coming to America, and I hired him to direct the movie. I was going to direct Coming to America myself, but I knew Landis had just done 3 fucked up pictures in a row, and that his career was hanging by a thread after the Twilight Zone trial, which is interesting to hear that even being acknowledged by someone in Hollywood. I figured the guy was nice to me when I did Trading Places, so I'd give him a shot. I was going out of my way to help this guy, and he fucked me over. Now he's got a hit picture on his resume, a movie that made over $200 million, as opposed to him coming off a couple of fucked up movies, which is where I'd rather see him be right now.
Jesus, that's so good.
This seems irreparable. But they did later reunite for Beverly Hills Cop 3, which I thought was really interesting that John Landis directed Beverly Hills Cops 3, the third one. Didn't direct the first two.
Yeah.
You know?
And then,
isn't that interesting?
Yeah, that's another one that's got a long gestating sequel to come, because the third one's the most recent, and there's a fourth one, right?
No, there isn't. The third one's the last one.
Yeah, but the fourth one, sorry, the long gestating one, yeah.
Oh, right.
In fact, I think it was the Bad Boys directors were hired, the Arby and Fowler, but they were hired to direct Beverly Hills Cop 4, but they left it because they wanted to focus on their upcoming film, Batgirl.
Redacted. I've got...
But just for the record, I've just looked up the... John Landis's last three films before they were Amazon Woman on the Moon, Three Amigos, and Spies Like Us.
He's dissing Three Amigos. Interesting.
Yeah.
I would have thought that was...
But then Amazon Woman on the Moon is like a... he directed some segments of it, so he might be referring to Three Amigos, Into the Night, and Spies Like Us.
All right.
And then Twilight Zone was before that.
I've got a story for you about humorist and columnist Art Buchwald.
Oh,
You ever met a humorist? You ever watch the work of a humorist? They sort of stand there in like cocktail dive bars with like their cigar, and they just sort of say mildly entertaining jokes. Oh, yeah. He sued Paramount Pictures upon the release of this movie, alleging that they stole his script idea and turned it into this movie. Guess what happened?
What?
He won.
Wow.
Like I feel like that happens a lot less common than the other. He was awarded damages, and it was settled out of court for what's believed to be $900,000. I think that's really interesting because the leg that he had to stand on was the script had been given to John Landis, I think, who was attached at some point. But Eddie Murphy apparently wrote the film, so like maybe it's just an unfortunate like crosshairs of, or maybe John Landis, much like landing a helicopter on three people. Maybe he's just a skeevy dude.
Yeah.
I've got no reason to like John Landis.
Yeah, neither. I mean, I don't love any of his films that I'm aware of.
What are some John Landis films?
Oh, what aren't some John Landis films?
The motherfucker can't be stopped.
He did American Werewolf in London, Blues Brothers, Animal at House. Yeah, it's interesting. I always thought he had a lot more, like, good ones. Oh, he did 1998. He was executive producer on The Lost World, 1998, which is an unrelated film.
Did you say he's
one.
done... You thought he'd done more than what he has done?
Yeah.
Because I've just opened up films directed by John Landis. There are 30 films listed here.
Yeah, no, but it's like I don't know. I think I'm probably just thinking of John Hughes, to be honest. Like, I thought that... that John Landis had like I thought I was going to look at this and go, oh, of course he did, this one. But these are all like, oh, yeah, that's him.
God, these movies suck.
His most recent film is Burke and Hare.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So, speaking of sues and suing, guess what fictional company was sued in this as well? McDowell, so the very oblique parody of McDonald's.
And I just want to say...
Too close for comfort, to be honest.
I messaged you like about a year, maybe 2 years ago, saying I decided on a new favourite trope, and it was lampshading XB coexistence. And so XB is the trope name, or Mr. Ersatz is the other one, that it's like... the name of the trope for, according to TV tropes, for the fictional world that of the film version of the thing that we all know. It's like a classic. You see in films all the time where they're like, oh, this thing, McDowell's, McDonald's. But one of my favorite tropes is when they acknowledge that the thing actually exists in that universe as well. There's an example in New Girl when there's like the dating app episode, and I can't remember the name of the app, but it rhymes with Tinder, and they're describing, oh yeah, there's this new app where it's like this, and then they explain it, and then someone says, oh, that just sounds like Tinder, and it's like, you know, that you think that they're new to the concept. And then or in The Simpsons, when they see a photo of Lucius Sweet, and it's like, wow, he's exactly as famous and rich as Don King, and he looks just like him too. And it's like, but then, yeah, in this one, that he goes to McDowell's restaurant, and then he keeps on going on about how McDonald's is real pissed off because they're so similar, and he keeps on just pointing out the like minutia of the differences,
the superficial differences, which make it essentially the same.
Yeah, he's like,
product.
They've got the golden arches, and he's got what are these? What does he call them?
The golden arcs.
Yeah, and then he says, like, you know, he has the Big Mac. They have the Big Mac. I've got the Big Mick. They both have 2 all beef patties, pickles, lettuce, special sauce on a bun. But here's the thing. This has seeds. We don't have seeds. And then at the start of the second film, when he arrives in America again, there's a billboard for McDonald's Big Mac, and it has an arrow pointing to the bun that says with seeds.
I did notice the sign, but I didn't get what the joke was. That's hilarious. No, apparently, so they actually just built a McDowell's restaurant. It actually looks kind of fake in the movie. It looks like it's like superimposed into the scene.
I tried to look up confirmation, because I remember hearing about, like, oh, they actually built, or like some McDonald's as a promotion converted to McDowell's for the release of the film or the second film.
Oh, I didn't see that.
I might have imagined it. Like, I couldn't find a record either.
What I can tell you, though, is that the owner of a nearby McDonald's, because you know you can like franchise them for your own. So the owner of a McDonald's saw this being built, didn't know it was for a film set, and went in there and threatened to sue them for all they were worth until they were like, this is a parody, and we're not actually selling food. So yeah. Shockingly, we're already at the end of talking about the first film. But before we move on, I would like to ask you, French-wise, why do you think that a sequel to this sort of unassuming Eddie Murphy comedy was made like 33 years later?
Do you know?
I don't, not really. According to IMDb, Eddie Murphy said that the sequel came out after attempts to turn the first film into a play fell through, which is also a strange idea, I think.
I believe there was also a TV pilot filmed.
Well, we'll talk about that in a bit, but he had a pitch meeting at some point with Ryan Coogler of Black Panther, and also a producer on Space Jam 2. And Murphy said, this is so funny, Murphy said that although he didn't like Coogler's idea for a sequel, it got him thinking about developing his own storyline for a sequel.
Well.
Which is like, I don't like that idea, but I am going to
but now that I think about it.
It's such like, so this is going to be a trilogy of film franchise Fortnights episodes of like comedies. Bad Boys is more maybe an action movie with a distant sequel in the series somewhere. And I think that's really interesting because next week, should we tell them? Next week we're doing next fortnight we're doing Anchorman, which you need to consider that episode a prequel to these previous two.
Because we recorded it a couple weeks ago.
Yeah. It's the Arkham Origins to Bad Boys Arkham Asylum and Coming to America's Arkham
And if you want
City.
more information about prequels, tune into last week's podcast.
Absolutely. And I'm saying it's a prequel because now I'm going to sort of come to a conclusion from watching all three franchises that won't make sense for me to say now because I should have said it on the next episode. I don't like we not only have we watched 3 distant sequels and comedy franchises, we've watched 3 that aren't like particularly revolted against. we've watched three which kind of do very similar things with their distant sequels. Although I guess there is a collection of tropes that would be natural to see.
They have kids.
A distant sequel. They have kids. They're looking back at their life and that sort of thing. But yeah, so Coming to America, that's the number 2, came out in 2021. It was directed by Craig Brewer. Do you know what he's done before?
I recognise the name, but that might just be from the opening credits of Coming to America.
So most notably, this was his follow-up to Dolomite Is My Name.
Oh, yeah, of course,
which is, Eddie Murphy's sort of comeback, basically.
Yeah, which is a great film.
This did not fare as well with critics. They said it wasn't reviled, but it certainly wasn't celebrated either. What do you think this has on Rotten Tomatoes?
Let's go like 48.
49. I just don't believe that you're not looking.
Okay.
Well, you wouldn't believe me.
Yeah. See, the annoying
put
thing
yourself
is,
in my shoes.
Okay, the annoying thing is, I have cheated in the past. I did not cheat at all today.
I was talking before to someone about how, I have cheated at Scrabble, and I don't know how to tell people. I don't know how to explain to people that doesn't mean I will always cheat at Scrabble. I've only had words with friends, actually, not Scrabble. But, I have cheated, but that shouldn't mean you shouldn't trust me, because sometimes I won't want to cheat.
Well, that's actually how I feel right now. That, I think, both of those... Damn, I'm actually really proud of myself for those. I think if I was cheating, I wouldn't go... I would either get it exactly right or I wouldn't get it that close. No, maybe I would. I don't know. I didn't cheat.
What is Coming to America about?
So now it's on the page for Dolomite Is My Name. Whoopsie. So this is... Yeah, it's a distant sequel. It turns out, hilariously, that when Akeem went to America the first time, that he was a victim of a
rape played for laughs.
Yeah,
I think they call it in the industry.
Yeah, that character played by Leslie Jones, raped Akeem, and it's just.
The word rape isn't used in the films, if you're wondering.
Yeah, it's a funny scene, that she stole his virginity, and that's so funny, and then that's kind of the whole plot of the film is so it turns out he has a son, because he has 3 daughters in Zamunda. But turns out he actually has a son that he didn't know about in America. And so he goes to be like, oh, cool, I've got an heir now. And then it's sort of, the whole movie is the struggle between his male heir and his oldest daughter, who feels entitled to the throne. Or
Well, there's also external pressure from a new character played by Wesley Snipes, who is the general of the warring nation of Nextdoria, which is the nation next to Zamunda. And yeah, so that's sort of why he does it, is because there's still these old-fashioned rituals that need to be fulfilled. What did you think of Coming to America?
Again, I was like, it's not too bad. I think I was I liked how kind of nice it is, weirdly, but it's it's not horrible. I mean, the whole plot being predicated on a wacky rape is pretty fucked up,
uncomfortable, and in 2021 as well. Jesus Christ. I just had a phone call. There might have been a brief intermission. I can't remember what I was saying, so I don't know where the line will be. I think that I preferred this one. I think, or maybe I didn't prefer it. Maybe I appreciated the theme of the struggle of a leader to abolish tradition. I think that's a very compelling idea.
You're related to that.
An interesting. Well, maybe not related to it in the sense that I've been in that position, but an interesting idea to take Akeem as a character that 30 years on, he hasn't radically changed Zamunda at all. Despite that being kind of what was expected of him. I thought that the idea basically is like, because the big part of the film is how, like, why can't one of your daughters just rule after? And he's like, well, because it's tradition. And James Earl Jones, who plays his father in both films, he actually dies at the start of this one. And it's this whole thing about how he has to carry on his father's wishes, who wished for him to have a male heir. And I want to say that James Earl Jones is so funny in this movie, and I've never seen him like be funny before. Like, he's on his deathbed and he's trying to explain something, and Semi says something, and he goes, "Oh, shut up, Semi!" And it's just this disgruntled old man. It's a very funny look for the voice of Darth Vader and Mufasa, I think,
or CNN.
So I really enjoyed that. There's a really funny joke, I thought, in this movie, probably the funniest joke in both films, which is where Akeem's son, what's his name? Lavelle, where Lavelle is, before he finds out he's like the heir to Zamunda, he's doing a job interview, and the guy interviewing him is white and is asking a bunch of like sort of... Oh, right. He's asking a bunch of like unintentionally racist questions, right? And it eventually gets too much for Lavelle, so he leaves after like telling him basically that he's real racist, and he's like, "Well, you can't do that." And he says, as he's leaving, he says, "I can't wait to see photos of you in blackface from the office party." And the guy replies, "It was Will Smith from Aladdin that had blue over the black." And I was like, what a fantastic joke that is. I thought that was the funniest joke in both movies.
Which is
really
probably
like
improvised by Colin Jost.
Yeah, it has that because he says Will Smith as Aladdin or something, so like he doesn't even describe the situation perfectly. Going on to the the faults of this film, though, there's a part in the film where Mirambe, who's one of Akeem's daughters, tells Lavelle, no, sorry, it's Lavelle's love interest, his like groomer, basically, his hairdresser. And she tells Lavelle about Akeem's antics from the first film, and it serves as like a recap of the original, but it also happens like 45 minutes into the movie. Like, it happens to the point where, like, if you were going to do a recap, we needed one by now.
Yeah, right.
Like, this is too late for a recap. So one thing we didn't talk about as well is that Samuel L. Jackson briefly appears in the first film as a shoplifter at McDowell's. And Murphy said for this one that if Jackson had been available for a cameo, because he wasn't, he was busy doing 100,000 other things, his character would again be featured robbing the McDowell's restaurant, which is like, that'd be super interesting, I think, to have the same 30 years later, the same robber is going after the same place.
Yeah, I mean, you just have fun with that kind of thing. But there is another little cameo in the first film, if you have information about that. Do you? So there was a bit of debate about this, that whether or not it's actually a 2-film franchise. Because...
Oh, yes. Yeah, right. I do have a bit of information about this.
Oh, okay. Well, then you lied to me.
Well, I didn't know this is what you're talking about.
Yeah, so... Well, do you want to explain it then? You probably have better info than I do.
There is a movie called Trading Places that's also a John Landis, Eddie Murphy team up from 1983. And in that movie, Eddie Murphy's character is responsible for the bankruptcy of these two like Wall Street guys, played by Ralph Bellamy and Don Amesh. And the actors reprise their roles as two homeless men in Coming to America, which seems to somewhat imply that they're set in the same universe. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, people, it's a fun little cameo. It doesn't mean Trading Places is part of the franchise. I'm sorry. But then I did just see on the Coming to America page that Colin Jost's character is a descendant of the Duke brothers from Trading Places, apparently.
Right. Well, that makes sense. Yeah, I mean, what do we even call an episode that's Trading Places and Coming to America and Coming to America? So that's my main reason for not wanting to include it.
Yeah, I just don't think it counts, personally.
This is also going to be a very short episode, I'm sensing.
Yeah, I mean, we're only at 30 minutes and like 5 minutes of that was you on a call, so...
During a break, this is dumb IMDb trivia.
Oh yeah.
So, of course, I've only got it for the second film that if IMDb trivia's user submitted, so a lot of it's dumb. Here's a piece from Coming to America. During a break in filming Bad Boys for Life 2020 in an adjacent lot at Tyler Perry Studios, Will Smith and Martin Lawrence visited Eddie Murphy and Wesley Snipes to pay their respects.
Because they died.
Yeah, such a strange way to put it,
Yeah.
right? To these equally famous men paid their respects to each other. What are you talking about? I think it's interesting though that this is, obviously related to our last franchise, but it's also like on the Bad Boys episode, didn't we talk about Too Fast, Too Furious was happening like across the bay from Bad Boys 2. So now this was happening across the bay from Bad Boys for Life. Yeah. We talk about titles a lot on this podcast.
And this is a doozy.
I don't have too much to say about Coming to America other than, is it supposed to be a rude joke? Is it coming because it's sort of like a sex comedy? What do you reckon?
Yeah. No.
Surely it's too much of a reach, but at the same time, shouldn't it be called Going to America? And on top of that, is Royal Oats not a better title for this? They talk about sowing your royal oats, and if you release a movie called Royal Oats, I feel like people would immediately understand what that means,
What do you think of the sequel title?
Coming to America.
Yeah.
I enjoy the novelty of them having phonetically the same title and confusing people. Not a big fan of Coming to America, but I quite like Coming to America.
Yeah.
What do you think?
It's one of those things. It's like, it's annoying, but it's also funny. Like, it's allowed to do it.
Doesn't 2021 feel like quite late in the game to be doing a title like that, though? Like in a post-Driver 3 Fantastic Four world, we're still doing I guess it's not exactly the same.
Bad Boys for Life.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's the second one, and this is the opposite problem. It's not really a problem.
Yeah. If this one was just called Coming America, and then you would be like, well, the Coming to America has got to be the first one, the second one.
Why would it be? We have a segment on our show now called Meeting of the Elders, where we go over to Patreon.
This is going to be our shortest episode in quite a long time.
Years. Well, we're busy. I think
I also think that, I mean, think about the length of your average podcast that you listen to. They're not all this, we're special. Today we're just giving you normal podcast length stuff.
So if you join the Cult Elder tier on Patreon, you can head over to our Discord where we have a special little chapter for the Cult Elders where we get to know your thoughts on the franchise of The Fortnight. Our first message is from Bad Brent for Life, who says, should have included Trading Places.
Disagree.
Fuck you, Brent. Fuck you. Do you want to read out the next comment there?
Yeah, I just need to get it up 1 second. And then I'll load the webpage.
Then you'll come to America.
Alright. Cult Elders. Alright. Dan from Hawaii said, I've only seen the second film and I was not a fan. In fact, it was the film that broke me as I attempted to watch every single film nominated for an Oscar in 2022. I only had a few left, and Coming to America was such a slog for me as it felt really apparent it was the kind of sequel that only works if you saw and liked the first entry. Would like my haiku to be read. Jaw-dropping costumes, primo production design, seldom did I laugh.
God, that's the new for sale baby shoes never worn. Like that's that for Hollywood, putting all your money into one Hollywood
Seldom did I laugh.
project. Nice. Rocky Marciano ain't shit. Or our friend Vincent said Cuba Gooding Jr.'s role as boy getting haircut was transformative. Can't believe it was the same guy from Snow Dogs. Because yes, Cuba Gooding Jr. does have a
it's not really a cameo, but it's an extra.
Well, he has a deleted scene, but you've already got Cuba Gooding Jr., so it's like, well, all right. He also said, just finished Coming to America for the first time. Like the fact that Akeem came to America twice in the film. It earned that number 2 in the title. I did laugh at the one princess still barking because he when he, in the first film, when he is betrothed to be wed to this other princess, who is the princess of Nextdoria. So Nextdoria is established in the first film. He's, testing her and being like, what movies do you like? And she's like, whatever movies you like. And then he tells her to hop and bark like a dog. And we're led to believe in the sequel that she's been doing this for 30-something years. Also, good job at pointing out that distant sequels are bad. Right, yeah, there's a scene in the film where they discuss rotten papayas and talk about how sequels never add anything to a film. Did not stop this one from being a reference-filled sequel that just wanted you to remember how good the first one was. Now go to Shrek 5, Eddie, a sequel I would want instead. And he said, if you guys had to get a handy during a sporting event, which would you choose? Because Eddie Murphy gets jacked off at a basketball game in this movie.
Well, it's often said that baseball is America's pastime, and I think I would like to be coming to America.
Dan replied to this and said, during one of those keep one hand on the car contests.
Because it's knocking out another contestant potentially.
And Bad Brent for Life said Mexican poker meeting adjourned.
What would you
say? Oh God, any of them.
God, I'm so desperate.
So many wonderful.
I will sit through any sporting event.
Super 12 rugby, like around like a massive crowd and like hype beyond belief that I do not share and am bored by.
So that's the only way to get you on board.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Continue the franchise. So this is a segment where we pitch our own continuations of the franchise. But before we do that, there are a few other things that we need to talk about, including Trading Places, which we have talked about already. But in 1989, a pilot for a planned spin-off television series was made, although this was never picked up for series. The pilot went to like a showcase TV show that showcases like pilots that didn't get picked up. And apparently it fucking sucks. And it explicitly, it's not the same characters, but it does reference Eddie Murphy a lot, apparently.
Right.
And shortly after the second film debuted on Amazon TV, Eddie Murphy stated that he has an idea for Coming to America 3, but he has no intention of making it until he is 75 years old. And he said not made up to look 75. He wants to actually be 75. He's 50-something now. As he believes he physically needs to be that age. Right. Not to just look through makeup effects for it to be credible. If he is going to be true to his word for this second sequel, it should come out in 2036 when his co-star Arsenio Hall will be 80 years old.
Wow.
So he's done his own one.
Well, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Eddie.
Is it called Coming 3 America?
This is
the question.
The thing, right? Yeah.
This is the thing. What do you think?
I would have called the second one Coming to Zamunda.
I feel like you want the word America in the title. I feel like you change the other words. You don't change America.
Going to America.
Going to America or coming from America. That's it. They'll be coming from America.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's your continue the franchise? Is it Coming 3 America? I assumed it would be. So I
I was going to say that, but
thank you for doing that for me, AJ.
The only thing that I'm I just want to see more McDowells. I want to see The Founder, but about Mr. McDowell, and it's like it's like a shot-for-shot remake of The Founder, the film about Ray Kroc starring Michael Keaton, or it's even like take The Founder and just add him into add scenes with him in between of him independently coming up with the ideas,
like Pride and Prejudice and Zombies.
Yeah. The Founder and McDowell's. The Founder. What's the character's name?
It's a race to find out his name. Cleo.
Oh, yeah.
Cleo McDowell.
Yeah, it's The Founder and Cleo McDowell.
Nice. Well, my continuing the franchise is into the Murphyverse, which is we get all of Eddie Murphy's characters from movies in which he plays multiple characters together. So I'm not talking every Eddie Murphy character. I'm talking like your Norbits, your Nutty Professors, your Clumps. and your Coming to America characters.
There's
Get them all
one
together.
other film you didn't mention, which is called Vampire in Brooklyn.
Vampire in Brooklyn. That does not sound like an Eddie Murphy movie.
Yeah, so there's apparently there's only 5 movies where he plays multiple characters. Although I would call, Meet Dave? That counts.
Yeah, but it's not the same game.
Yeah.
That's just he's playing... Now, that's not the same. That's not like putting on makeup to play other characters.
Okay, alright.
Or maybe it is. I can't remember. I don't know if I've seen Meet Dave.
I don't know if I've met Dave.
Who knows? What's Dave even up to these days? That's the real question. He says, trying to stall so that we can reach maybe 50 minutes for a reasonable length episode. I don't think we're going to do it. I think this is probably going to be like 40 minutes long. What time are we up to? I guess, should I just cut it then? Should I just end it? Well, we've already said what the next franchise is going to be. It is going to be Anchorman, and we've already recorded it weeks ago. Something we did. I think about this. We should have just released it. I don't like doing it out of order. This podcast has often so much been about it has like a linear progression of our lives. It feels strange to record an episode out of order like that.
You should put an
donk on it.
An intro before it, being like, "Hey, this is one we're found in the vault."
Okay, found it in the vault. But yeah, so tune in next week for Anchorman, and if you would like to, or next fortnight for Anchorman, if you would like to support us on all the places. Sorry for the short episode, folks. We're both incredibly busy, so it was a bit of a struggle to even get this one out.
Well, I think what I'll remember most is the laughter.
That's true. Yeah, you can follow us on Instagram and Twitter at CultPopture. You can support us on Patreon, patreon.com/CultPopture, or you can join our Discord, which there is a link to in the show notes. Stay safe out there, everybody. Look after my baby boy when he comes to America to see you. And yeah, what are you going to sow your royal oats over there?
I might
just
do.
Your Quaker's oats, an American oat company.
Ow.
Stay tuned for the post-credit scene, which is coming at you after this music ends.
Thank you for listening. I'll see you in America.
Welcome along to the post-credits scene, everybody. This is a segment at the end of each episode where if you donate $5 or more over at patreon.com/cultpopture, you get to give us something to talk about in this, the post-credits scene. Richard, there should be one queued up for you from someone named Holly.
Yeah, there is. I was like, wow, this is so... but okay. Hi, Holly says, "Hi, AJ and Richard. I joined the $5 Patreon tier just to submit this post-credit scene question. I hope this one gets picked because the FMK question you answered in the Bad Boys episode indicates that you're scraping the bottom of the barrel for this segment. I know this is a long question, however, it will make for an interesting conversation and help to pad out the Coming to America episode."
Yay!
My question is as follows. I love to continue the franchise for Bad Boys, which would allow Dana Carvey and John Lovitz to show off their comedic acting skills while treating the audience to some exciting action sequences. It would also provide Dana Carvey with some much-needed acting work since he was abandoned by Hollywood after the poor box office reception and poor box office performance and critical reception of The Master of Disguise. I think The Master of Disguise was a fine turn-your-brain-off comedy for its time and that the movie deserves a re-evaluation. Not a Jennifer's Body-style re-evaluation, more like Halloween 3 Season of the Witch. In your opinion, what movie or TV show most deserves to be re-evaluated in 2022? Please don't mention my last name in the episode. I couldn't if I wanted to. I don't have it. While I loudly and consistently advocate for the Master of Disguise amongst friends, I do not wish this stance to be attached to me in the public sphere. However, I do want you to mention the Master of Disguise in a feeble attempt to improve its contemporary standing. Best, Holly, no last name given.
Difficult question for me because the only time I've ever seen Master of Disguise is when I just unironically found it hilarious when I was like 8 or 9. Then it disappeared from my mind. I never thought about it again until maybe like 2015 when someone so like I remember it being a pretty funny comedy, dumb comedy, but apparently it's garbage.
Yeah, do you know what? I've never actually seen Master of Disguise. But I will say, do you know the one really interesting fact about Master of Disguise? It has possibly the rarest Rotten Tomatoes score, I think.
Oh.
What do you think it is?
It's 2?
It's 1%.
Right.
So that means it has to have over 100 reviews, and only 1% of them are good. Because most films that are, generally considered this bad don't have enough reviews to even to make it possible to have 1% if one of them's good. Or, in a group of 100 critics, more than one finds it good. I think there's actually only maybe a dozen films, if that have 1% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Well, I mean, we know who was the 1% of critics that gave it a good score.
Holly.
It was Holly no last name. It's like Holly Go Lightly. Holly no last name. What, do you have any media that you think needs a critical reevaluation?
I wish I did, I tell you. But, I don't know. I feel like I only like good films, so it's hard to say.
Yeah, I did a video essay a couple years back on the 2005 Bewitched movie, and I don't know if I'd say it needs a critical evaluation. I just thought it was like a smarter movie than maybe people thought it was. I mean, we've talked about Josie and the Pussycats 1,000 times in regards to this, that it has a poor critic review score because they didn't get it. So I think that's probably the one I would point to for something that needs a critical reevaluation.
Yeah, I mean, that's a lot of them. It's like just getting it seen by more people. TV show. There's a show called All Aussie Adventures that I really like.
Was that received poorly though, or is that just?
It's just that's the thing. That's like I feel like this could be huge, but it's just underseen. People don't hate it as far as I'm aware, but they just don't know about it. Go check out All Aussie Adventures. It is fucking hilarious. It's like a survival show in the outback of Australia, and it's just like it's a slapstick comedy, but the parody voiceover for the documentary is just so well written. It's hilarious.
I think Cult Popture needs a critical reevaluation.
Cult Popture needs a critical reevaluation.
People need to think it's bad.
Yeah. We've got too many fans. I'm drowning in PlayStation 5s.
Fucking James Bond needs... We're talking the other way.
Yeah,
James Bond needs a critical reevaluation. Sean Connery needs a critical reevaluation. I feel like on this podcast we have given a lot of meat to the bone of... Do you give meat to a bone?
No, you take meat from a bone.
Yeah, I've been reversing the image of someone eating. I feel like that's one of our biggest strengths as a show is that we take beloved things from 20 years ago.
And we're not afraid to say that they suck.
But we're not though. Legitimately, that's I think what's captivating. I've had people tell me that they really appreciate, for example, our James Bond episode and stuff. And I think what gives us credence is it's not a hard and fast rule to hate everything that's old, because we'll watch something old and we might like it. What was I messaged about recently? Planet of the Apes. I had someone reach out to me to say, so worried to listen to this episode, but you loved it as much as I did, and so yeah.